Yes, welcome to the unofficial NHL Awards Show. All right, let's give out our own fun fake prizes for the first half of the NHL season as we hit the All-Star break.
All right, we start with our most prestigious award, the Fantasy MVP, otherwise known as the Alex Ovechkin Award. We named this trophy after the Capitals star forward because he led the NHL in fantasy scoring during the 2012-2013 season, which was the first year of DK's existence. Oh. And wouldn't you know it, he's leading the way again this year. So does he win his own trophy here, Pete? If not, who does?
You could certainly make a case to give it to him again, but I'm going with a little guy that's been more surprising, Jonathan Huberdeau, leading the NHL in scoring at the All-Star break with 64 points in 47 games, and then also leading the NHL in assists. And his team, the Florida Panthers, has been, I think, the safest, most consistent fantasy team, regardless of who's been missing in the lineup. And still, the thing that amazes me most about Huberdeau over the past 2 seasons is that he's done all this damage at even strength. He's among the top even strength point producers in the league on a separate line from Alexander Barkov, who earlier in his career, those two were attached at the hip. And you could always have said that Huberdeau's success was related to Barkov. You can't say that anymore. Huberdeau is arguably the best scorer in the NHL right now, and I think he has a great chance to keep it going.
All right, Paul, what do you think? Is it Ovi's award to win Ovi's award?
Absolutely. You said a fantasy award, right? Based on fantasy stats, he's there. He's number one. He's among the leaders in point scoring. He has a wide edge in shots on goal, which is also a factor. 23 shots more than any other forward in the NHL this season. So to me, he's the clear number one with the fantasy impact, and the stats back it all up in the leagues that I play in. Number two, I'll give you the top 5 real quick. Draisaitl, number 2 for me, on the strength of his 31 goals. That gives him the edge, slight though it is, against over Connor McDavid, who trails his teammate by 9 goals. They're virtually in step with every other stat. Then number 4 is Austin Matthews on the basis of his goals, his shots on goal, and the fact that he has more blocks than any of their other guys. And 5th, I rank Chris Kreider, the league's top goal scorer, is 5th because he trails the others by a wide margin in assists and shots on goal.
All right, next we have the Brent Burns Cup for Best Fantasy Defenseman. So Burns has twice led DK in fantasy scoring in 2016 and in 2017. So who's the blue liner that you found in your lineups the most often this season, Paul?
Well, in the same manner, I went through the stats and I come up with Roman Josi as my number 1 D-man, leading the league in shots on goal from the position by, again, a wide margin with 157 year-to-date. And he's right there with the leaders in points and blocked shots, which also factors in. Number 2 is Victor Hedman, tied with Fox at 47 points to lead all defensemen, but he has 3 more goals than him. Makar is my number 3, leading all shooters with 18 goals, but he's hindered by low shot block totals and other stats where he trails the other contenders. Fox is my number 4, leading with 21 power play points, tied with Josi, but his shot total is way below the other contenders. And rounding it out, this is for AJ, Chris Letang, narrowly edging Aaron Ekblad, as they're both tied in points, but he gets the lead by a big margin of block shots.
All right, Pete, who's getting the award for you?
You could make a case for all those guys in different ways for different coverage and things like that, but I think there's something to be said about how Cale Makar has come into this season with really lofty expectations. His teammates have been dropping for different reasons, injuries, COVID protocol, things like that. And he still leads all defensemen in points per game, speaking outright points, not DraftKings points, but still that's a good thing every given night, whether he's been playing on the power play with Nazem Kadri or McKinnon, who's one of the best fantasy players in the league when he's healthy on a per game basis, or even some of the secondary guys like Nichushkin and Devon Taves. You know, in different situations, Cale Makar has always risen to the top in almost every single game this season, and he's lived up to the high expectations. So wanted to give Makar a shout out, and he is definitely making a run for Adam Fox. Fox is injured right now, but he's going to be looking to defend his Norris Trophy title. I think if Makar stays healthy for the rest of the way, I think he's a shoo-in for the Norris this year.
All right, we have named our best goalie trophy the Vassal Buck Award, as either Tampa Bay's Andre Vasilevsky or Winnipeg's Connor Hellebuck has been the top scoring fantasy goalie in each of the last 4 seasons, and the two have finished top 2 like in 3 of those years. So who is the backstop that has given you the most bang for your buck this year, Pete?
Hellebuck's been disappointing, so we might have to change that award name for next year. We'll see. But I've been really impressed by UC Saros for the Nashville Predators. Paul was mentioning Roman Josi and his impact on the whole offense and how that team has been a surprise. But as far as Saros leading all NHL goalies in starts this season, and he's also like top 3 in save percentage. So the days of him being a timeshare with Pekka Rinne are over because Rinne is retired. And now this guy has become a bona fide superstar in this league, and he has the crease to himself. So he's been able to reach a new gear this season. Major shout out as well to Igor Shesterkin because he's been awesome as well. But I expected Shesterkin to be one of the top 5 fantasy goalies. I had major team concerns about Nashville, but Saros has gotten to the top 5 anyway. So I would give the award to Saros.
Yeah, Shesterkin, Paul. Different goalie, same old Rangers there, man.
Absolutely, and I agree with Pete. He's got the top 2, right? Saros leading the league in saves by 250 over his nearest competitor. That's an indication of just how busy he's been, more active than any of the other top guys. Second in the league in wins. Shesterkin, for his part, is second to Freddie Anderson with a 210 goals against average, as well as strong peripherals across the board as well. Number 3, Tristan Jarry, on the strength of being the second busiest goalie in total minutes. His 23 wins is there, and third in the league in total saves. Fourth is Vasilevsky, a nod to one of the guys the trophy's named after. First in wins, 6th in saves, right there with the goals against average too. And then 5th, a nod to my favorite guy in the whole mix, is Jack Campbell, among the leaders in all big categories, narrowly edging out Freddie Anderson, who is hampered by the fact that he faces fewer shots than any of the other goalies by a large margin.
All right, up next, top fantasy rookies. So we're calling this one the Austin Matthews Cup, as he's the only player since DK started to crack the top 10 in fantasy points in his rookie season. That was 2016, 2017, came in 8th.
Nice.
So who's your top fantasy freshman so far, Paul?
Well, a number of these guys have carved out roles in the top 6. I want to give the nod to a few people. First off, Lucas Raymond came out of nowhere to lead all rookies with 35 points the year to date, playing right wing minutes on the top line next to Dylan Larkin there. A great spot for him. We've all seen the Trevor Zegras highlights. He's also got 32 points, ranking second in the league in among rookies. Second line center, he's been playing first line minutes as well on the wing with Ryan Getzlaf. Not a bad place in either situation, and I look for him to be right there in terms of the point totals at the season's end. Coming up fast on the outside, Michael Bunting, an older player than most of the rookies this year, but he's got a prime assignment now with Matthews and Marner on the Leafs top line, and he's cooking right now. He's got 29 points, closing in on the other point leaders. The only defenseman in my top 5, another Detroit veteran, Moritz Seider, a big guy who was jokingly referred to as a next Nick Lidstrom, but the early returns are very positive on him too. 29 points and a plus-minus that's almost flat for a team that is in the lower half of the league. So kudos to him. And then Anton Lundell, playing in Florida, he's moved up and down the roster a lot this year, but fits in among their top 9, and he's got 32 points, so he's my number 5 guy.
All right, Pete, which rookie are you giving this award to?
I'm going to go with the last guy that Paul mentioned, Anton Lundell. If you could lead all rookies in your class in even strength points at the halfway mark or the all-star break, whatever you want to call it, as a third liner, that is incredible stuff. And I know that the Florida Panthers are a very robust fantasy team and a great home team in general. You know, we like to call them on our podcast, NHL Fantasy on Ice, the puck line Panthers, because they've been extremely effective at winning by more than a goal and a half. So, and Lundell has been a big part of that. Like Paul mentioned, Barkov missed some time. Sam Reinhart, as good as he's been, it seems like every other couple of games he's missing because of the suspension or because of a minor injury or something like that. But Lundell, even when he's on line 3, has been outstanding this year. And I think he's a dark horse for the Calder. I mean, as much as you could talk about Zegras and his flair and Raymond and what the Red Wings guys are doing, including Nedeljkovic, the goalie, none of them have been consistent enough so far to separate themselves from the pack. So therefore, I think it's still up for grabs. And maybe one injury to the forward group in Florida could be all that it takes for Lundell to make that jump towards the top spot among rookies. So I'm giving him a major shout out for what he's done so far against the circumstances, which have been against him.
Well, before we wrap up this segment here, guys, we just want to let everyone watching know that you need to keep an eye on the lookout for a free-to-play DK pool coming up for the NHL All-Star Skills Competition. So it will be available this weekend, and Pete himself helping come up with the questions for the pool. It will be free to play, which is why we call it free to play, and give you a little extra something to cheer for while watching the skills competition. So Pete, that should be pretty fun, dude. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, we're going to be doing our Fantasy on Ice podcast from NHL Fanfare at the Vegas Convention Center. So go and check that out if you're coming to All-Star Weekend. If you're watching from home, check out the podcast and check out the events on Saturday. Of course, the All-Star Games on ABC, and the skills competition is on ESPN. So it should be an awesome weekend. A little bummed that Ovi's not going to be here because he's in COVID protocol, but there are going to be some great stars on display, and great to be in Vegas here to be a part of it.